Finally driving the all-electric Kia EV6, and I'll tell you right up front, this, folks, is a game changer. There's been chatter for years about the electric vehicle tipping point, where people start choosing EVs over gas-powered vehicles. If the market hasn't quite achieved that yet, Kia's first effort from the ground up will help fuel the demand. EV6 isn't just another mass-market electric like Ford Mustang Mach-E, Polestar 2, Volkswagen ID.4, Volvo XC40 and C30 Recharge, or Tesla Model Y and 3. It's a strong argument that electric vehicles are ready to go mainstream, the kind of car you want to buy, not just something to save the planet. It's not perfect, but it's very good. Let's go over some EV6 basics. This looks nothing like the Hyundai Ioniq 5, but they're both built on the same E-GMP platform. The Kia is available in 4 different flavors. The base light is strictly the smaller battery plus rear-wheel drive. Move up to the Wind and this GT line, you get the big pack, all-wheel drive is optional. Then there's the high-performance GT, which gets the whole shebang, the big battery and all wheels driven. Estimated range, in ideal conditions, light with the 58 kilowatt-hour battery is rated at 232 miles. Rear drive Wind and GT line with the 77.4 kilowatt-hour pack goes 309, 274 when optioned with all-wheel drive, which is $4,700. The high-performance all-wheel drive GT hasn't been rated. I'll guesstimate 260. I'll touch on real-world range, but this video is a pretty deep dive on the EV6, so I'm going to post a separate one focusing on my travel experience. If 0 to 60 bragging rights are really important to you, you have to buy the right EV6. The base light version saunters to that benchmark in 8 seconds. Go with a rear drive Wind or GT line and it drops to 7. Add all-wheel drive and it's closer to 4.5. Now Kia says that the GT, which is strictly all-wheel drive, will do the 0 to 60 dash in under 3.5 seconds. And really, for everyday driving, this feels perfectly fine, 0 to 60 in 7 seconds, because electric cars have instant torque off the line. This feels a lot faster than it is. Let's talk about the GT line's powertrain. This is a graphic of the all-wheel drive platform. My rear drive tester doesn't get the front motor. The 168 kilowatt unit in the back makes 225 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque. FYI, the base light version is detuned to 167 horsepower. The lithium-ion polymer battery is liquid-cooled and, as you can see, follows the popular skateboard design with a fully flat interior floor. Some EVs have generous frunks, others save that space for the cabin. This cubby is good for a travel charge cord, which is not included, by the way. If you simply must stash large things in front for some reason, EV6 is not your ride. Funny, snaking my iPhone under the compartment shows it could be substantially larger. Very happy I didn't drop it down in there. The Kumho Krugen tires are all-season, not specifically low rolling resistance. EV6 starts like a regular car. That's all you'll hear. The head-up display is unusually large, crisp, and comprehensive. Like many EVs, there's no transmission. That means less maintenance. The left paddle adds regeneration drag, the right one backs it off. There are drive modes that make a noticeable difference to throttle response and steering. Dampers are fixed. And there's some theater happening. The ambient lighting changes color. It looks spendy. Now, there's no obvious volume knob for the sound system, only the steering wheel control. More on that later. EV6's interior performance sound can be changed too. I prefer Cyber, that has a low square wave tone that fades into the background at speed. Dynamic has a louder, more aggressive note that's more easily heard. I'm a big fan of EVs. I don't think I'll ever buy another gasoline-powered car, but I'm also a realist. They're not for everybody. If you live in an apartment and you can't charge where you sleep, well, then maybe think twice. Commercial charging is really expensive. Kudos to the designers for this cool charge port, though wish the engineers would have placed it near the driver's door. Some 85% of all charging is done at home. It takes about 10 seconds to plug in.
Charging started.
This kind of convenience makes up for time spent charging on the road. Using my neighbor's level 2 setup, I juiced from 20% to full in about 6 hours. Starting with a completely spent pack, it should take a little bit more than 7 hours. EV6 has an 800-volt charging system, similar to what you'd find in a Porsche Taycan or Audi e-tron. Kia claims, under ideal conditions and using the right commercial fast charger, that the battery will go from 10% to 80% in around 18 minutes. That's fast. More and more of these 350 kilowatt terminals are coming online. The most popular ones are 150 kilowatts. That'll take around 25 minutes to hit 80%. But station maintenance is an issue. All right, not sure that my mics will pick this up, but I'm going to punch it so you can hear the sound. That's pretty cool. And you can turn it off. Other than the lack of engine noise, the EV6 is remarkably normal. Because of the rated 309-mile range, owners shouldn't be nervous. All EVs lose efficiency as the temperatures drop, and it was in the low 30s most of the days I had this car. In these conditions, I estimate I could have traveled 275 miles in mixed driving, so in 70-degree temperatures, the EPA rating should be easy to hit. All electric vehicles are heavy. The GT line here weighs 5,300 pounds, but chuck it hard into a corner and it feels a lot lighter than it is. Body motions are very nicely controlled. This is fun to drive. The chassis structure is as rigid as an Elon fanboy. The efficient tires have decent grip, a good compromise. Cornering is neutral with little understeer, punch the throttle, and a little oversteer can be dialed in. It's kind of fun. The GT should be a hoot. And the suspension soaks up bumps and expansion joints exceptionally well. Over pavement heaves, the EV6's heft is felt, but it only bounds a little bit. And all but the base light EV6 are rated to tow 2,300 pounds. Visibility? Great. Going forward, looking back, that is one big blind spot, and the rear window kind of small. Fortunately, the blind spot warning is very clear in the head-up display. Those are really hard to shoot. Also, I came to appreciate the camera system that clearly shows what's happening behind you when using the turn signals. This works great. There's no rear wiper if the spoiler's airflow is supposed to blow rain in such a way. It's not entirely effective. I'm doing 30 miles an hour, and this is in its most aggressive regeneration setting. Let's see how it coasts down, foot off the throttle. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi, and it comes to a complete stop. So yeah, with a little bit of planning, one-pedal driving is a thing in the EV6. You have a choice with this car. There's loads of standard active electronic safety tech, including automatic emergency braking with pedestrian and cycling detection, plus adaptive cruise. I'll cover the highway driving assist semi-autonomous package in the second video, but know that it's pretty solid stuff. There are some details about the EV6 that make it really compelling. Right down to the armrest, it feels really natural to put my elbow here and even my hand. There's a place for your hand. It just feels good. Let's go over more of that attention to detail that Kia put in the cabin. These are kind of cute. Door pockets get fabric inserts to keep rattles down. There are cable guides to keep things classy. The GT line gets great ambient lighting. It's on the console and the floor too. Stripes not your thing? Go with the light or wind. It all looks good in here, but many materials are not soft to the touch. There's a big area that's good for a large purse or backpack, works for my camera slider too. The skateboard architecture opens up a lot of options for storage, and most of the cubbies are generous in size. From the side, the display isn't as thin as what you'd get from Porsche or Mercedes, but looking at it directly, you'd never know. These screens allow a lot of options. The graphics have 3 different looks, and each one of these can be in dark or light mode. Kia says there are a lot of recycled plastics to keep this car on the ecological side. The grippy synthetic suede helps to hold you in place during hard cornering, unless you're wearing a slippery jacket. I did a 190-mile trip to Portland, and the chairs were comfortable, heated and vented too, though I bumped the controls a couple times because of the location. That's a good segue for gripes. For starters, an upgrade to all-wheel drive is needed for a heated steering wheel? Boo, hiss. Only available on GT line for now. I'd prefer a larger sunroof, a personal preference in dreary Seattle. And then there's the volume knob for the sound system. On our trip to the Portland Auto Show, me and the lovely and charming didn't see one, only on the steering wheel. One thing that's kind of a pain in the neck, you don't have what?
Volume control.
My co-pilot can't turn the volume up or down. The only volume control for the sound system is here on the steering wheel. You shouldn't have to ask me to do that.
That's very true.
Okay, turns out there is one, it's just not dedicated. This surface toggles between the HVAC and interface shortcuts, including volume on the left. I am not a fan of this arrangement. The 14-speaker Meridian system is quite good, though. Here's something cool if you want to charge up a robot dog or run your refrigerator when the power's gone out during a storm. Kia offers this. It's a vehicle-to-load adapter. With an output of 1.9 kilowatts, it can even charge another EV, though it's 110 volts, so it'll take some patience. It can be set to stop once the battery gets to a certain level. With a fully charged pack, it can run a fridge or freezer for some 300 hours, which can save hundreds of dollars worth of food. As for the interface, if you've driven a Kia or Hyundai, this should be second nature. Touch response is very smooth and snappy. This being an EV, the Navi system will populate the screen with charging station icons along a programmed route. I'd like to see it more obvious. Or there are phone apps for that, such as Electrify America and ChargePoint. But to view them while using standard Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, phones have to be plugged in. Those technologies are not wireless, even though there's a really nice vented Qi charger that you're going to want to use. Counterpoint, you can't even get Android or CarPlay in a Tesla. You didn't invite me to Portland. I kind of wanted to see the car show. I don't know, I just wanted to spend some time alone with Mariko. Be that way. I'll review the back seats. We're both 5'9", one of us a little bit more selfish than the other. Headroom is good, same with knee and leg room, but foot room, that gets a little bit tight. And because the battery's in the floor, it lifts my legs up. Thigh support is okay, it's not excellent. At least the door openings are big enough, car seats go in and out without much problem at all. Kind of cool that the door pockets back here also get that lining. Pockets on both seats, gotta love that. And I like where the USB ports are mounted, really convenient. No separate climate zone or adjustable vents here, those are on the B pillar. And I wish there were heated seats. Check out the floor, it's remarkably flat, something that EVs do pretty well. Now you might be wondering, can you get 3 average-sized adults back here? I would say yes, but for shorter trips, maybe across town. For road trips, it's 2. Keep it to 2. Let's talk about design. Obviously, Hyundai and Kia took completely different paths when building on the E-GMP platform. Apparently, the Kia design crew was inspired by the Lancia Stratos. I can see that. The wheelbase of the EV6 is shorter by 4 inches. Overall, it's 2 inches longer than the Hyundai. Both have the same door handles. Is there a law that EVs can't have normal ones? Kia markets this as a crossover. Of course they do. I see a hatchback, nothing wrong with that. It doesn't have the elegance of the Model 3 sedan or Mach-E's heritage, but the aggressive lines sure do turn heads. This belt sweeps up the rear flanks into the spoiler lip. Go in closer and there's more for the eye to appreciate. Everything looks windswept, and it is. The coefficient of drag is 0.28. EV6 can be summoned out of a parking space with the key fob. Sorry, didn't shoot that. Some cars have kicked open tailgates, which is nice. This one, you just stand next to it for a little while, and voila, it opens. You have to have the fob in your pocket or purse. This is great when you have your hands full. There is no spare tire. EV6 only gets a repair kit. There's some storage space under the load floor. This little trick is kind of helpful. There's some power back here. Some vehicles have no room for the security shade, and it has to be stored in the garage or tossed loosely in the boot at an angle. Not this one. There's a dedicated secure space. Remote seat releases? That's great. That opens up 50.2 cubic feet of practicality, though wish there was a pass-through or 40-20-40 split. With all seats usable, EV6 has 24.4 cubic feet to fill. Mustang Mach-E will take on 7 packs when you put one in the big frunk. Polestar 2 swallows up 6. The Kia is good for 7. And it might look like the hatch won't close, but a little bit of help is always allowed in this test. Make sure you travel with soft-sided luggage. That's all I've got to say about the EV6. Time for the red light, green light summary. Green light. The dramatic design of the EV6 drew more looky-loos than anything I've driven short of an exotic. It has a realistic 309-mile range in normal temperatures and conditions, no anxiety here. It's fun to drive with solid dance moves in the corners, and yet it remains comfortable. The cabin of the GT line has creative details and features. It's really cool. Yellow lights? In rear drive trim, it feels fast enough, but acceleration won't pin drivers into their seats. GT Line's interior is a visual treat, but the blind spot isn't, and there's quite a bit of hard surfaces. All-wheel drive is available on Wind and GT Line. This drops the estimated range 35 miles, like all EVs. Red light. Want a heated steering wheel? It means ponying up for all-wheel drive. I think all EVs should come standard with a travel charge cord, and I'm not a fan of switching displays to get a volume knob. Co-pilots will feel the same way. Just one more knob, Kia. One more knob. Pricing? Well, before the $7,500 federal tax credit, plus any that your state might offer, the EV6 Lite starts at around $42,000. This rear-drive GT line retails for $52,400 as tested, and you'll save money on fuel, $7,200 over 5 years, according to the EPA. So the EV6 is good looking, it handles really well, it has great range, it charges fast, and it's reasonably priced. If you're in the market for an EV and you're not considering this, I can't figure out why. Considering the goodness of Seltos, Sorento, and Telluride, it's clear Kia is firing on all cylinders lately. Of course, EV6 doesn't have any of those, but it continues the brand's streak of winning vehicles. This is the kind of car that people will want to buy, the type that will lure buyers to EVs without any reservations. Kia's first dedicated electric vehicle should become a huge hit and amp up the brand's reputation. You've probably heard automakers talking about going all electric by some date in the future, usually 2030 or 2035. Again, after driving nearly every electric vehicle in production, I'm happy to spread the EV gospel. But even as an optimist, I just don't see Americans adopting them as fast as some analysts think. Humans are simply too set in their ways, and the infrastructure needs to be bulletproof. As it stands, it's okay, but not without issues. A sneak peek at the second video proves that. Too many stations are out of order, and people won't stand for that. I'll get that video edited as quickly as possible. And while I was shooting this, my dad called up to say he bought a new car. I think you know where I'm going with this. An EV6. The Wind model in interstellar gray. Nice, 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 Dad. I'll give you updates on Twitter. You guys know I shoot all my own stuff. Martin Campbell was driving so I could shoot the running footage, so thanks to him. It was unusually cold. Here's proof. And I can tell you that the slider that I showed you in the center console doesn't work so well in frigid conditions. The viscous fluid thickens up quite a bit. Also, I'm always looking for great new backgrounds to keep things fresh for regular viewers. Oftentimes, there's just one thing that makes it tough to use. Like this. There are times that I just have to work at it. And here, well, I've been kicked out of here a number of times. There's that old saying, better to ask forgiveness than permission. This is the end. It's fun fact time, and I've got a whole bunch of them for you. The Kia name means, loosely translated, rising from Asia. The company got its start by making bicycle parts, and when it started making cars, it didn't make its own. It assembled vehicles that were engineered by Mazda. And when it finally came to the United States as its own brand in the early 1990s, it only had like 3 or 4 dealerships in Portland, Oregon. And I know this because my brother-in-law bought one of the very first Sportages imported into the United States. And if I remember, it was actually a pretty reliable vehicle. Sportage, also, the nameplate, that's the oldest in the Kia lineup. I think you folks in Canada call it Sportage. Always classy, Canada. Thanks for watching. Remember, subscribe to this channel. Follow me on Twitter. I'm pretty active there. And if you have a question, leave it in the comments. I'm pretty good about getting back to people. That's Driven. I'm Tom Voelk.